out to eager expectation, noticing that even their glances toward him now held a hint of suspicion and disdain. The hand holding the key slowly grew cold as he realized where things were heading. The next day, before the sun had even risen, the village loudspeaker began to blare. His uncle, Mr. Kong, spoke with a heavy seriousness, calling every villager to an emergency assembly. The agenda was simple: remove Ethan from his position and welcome the era of modernization. By the time he arrived at the meeting grounds, we see the courtyard was already packed with people. Standing on the steps with a stack of printed documents, his uncle addressed the crowd. He claimed water was the village's lifeblood, and they couldn't let Ethan keep control of it. The village chief approached with his hands behind his back, telling Ethan to look around. He told him this was the will of the people, and that the time for modernization had finally come. It was about agricultural progress, he insisted, and Ethan needed to think of the greater good. Furthermore, his uncle warned that the Green Garden Company wouldn't start work unless Ethan surrendered the key. They apparently feared he might sabotage them, which, to be honest, was a bit of a stretch. Ethan reminded the chief that for 8 years, he had paid for every replacement part out of his own pocket. Whenever the pipes leaked in the dead of winter, he was the one diving into the freezing water to fix them. He hadn't received a single cent in subsidies from the village for all that backbreaking work, and now they wanted to throw him out? The chief simply replied that times change. He argued that a large corporation had technology that Ethan simply couldn't compete with. Why keep killing himself with all that manual labor? He told Ethan not to worry about it. He urged him not to be stubborn, while Ethan looked out at the hundreds of people in the courtyard. Not a single person stepped forward to say a word in his defense. Not even Aunt Mary, who had just been praising him yesterday for repairing the pump, would meet his gaze. In that moment, any remaining loyalty he felt for this place completely vanished. He pulled a document from his pocket that he had drafted the night before, a formal resignation and division of assets. Without a word, he placed it firmly on the village chief's table for everyone to see. If they wanted him to hand over control so badly, he decided he would give them exactly what they asked for. Since they all chose to believe he was corrupt and that the corporation was their savior, he would step aside. He told them to sign and leave their thumbprints, declaring that from this day on, the water supply was no longer his concern. Ethan made it clear, from this point forward, whether they faced drought or flood, life or death, he was out. He told them they would each have to face their own destiny. The villagers looked at the paper, momentarily stunned. His uncle was the first to snap, claiming the village wouldn't fall apart just because Ethan was gone. He didn't hesitate to be the first one to press his thumb into the red ink and sign the paper. Then came his second cousin, then Aunt Mary. The entire village began to line up one by one. They were all terrified that a simple delay might cost them their precious free high-tech upgrade. They signed with an almost frantic enthusiasm, and as Ethan watched the pages fill with red marks, the heavy weight he had been carrying in his heart for years suddenly shattered, replaced by a sense of total relief. He tucked the signed agreement away, turned his back on the crowd, and walked toward the pump house. His uncle and a group of villagers followed close behind him, watching him as if he were a common thief. He unlocked the door, grabbed a heavy wrench, and headed straight for the back of the machinery room. Under the stunned gaze of the crowd, he began to dismantle the